blanket stitch. Let's look at how to do blanket stitch for going around applique. So I'm going to show you how to start and how to finish, and then restart with a new thread. You don't want your thread too long because otherwise it will get tangled, and that's not fun. So a good rule of thumb is to have a piece of thread that is no longer than your forearm. Otherwise your thread can very easily get tangled. So with this stitch we need to start from the bottom, and we need to start by bringing up your needle right at the edge of your applique. So you can see just here my needles come out right at the very edge of my applique, and bring your thread. So I have knotted the end of my thread. Pull your thread all the way to the front. If you do this left-handed, you just have to reverse what I'm doing. What I will do is I am holding the thread with my left thumb so that I know that my thread stays over this side, because when I go through I'm actually going to go over the top of that thread. So coming this way, the stitch length that I want, and into my applique, the depth of stitch that I want. And I push my needle through over the top of the thread, pull it through, not too tight, and you can see that it catches on that fold. So I have created an L shape with that stitch. So again, coming this way as far as I want to come, and then down as far as I want. I might actually make this one not quite as wide, but I want them about the same depth. So go straight out to the edge of your applique. We've held this one down with our thumb, and our needle is going over the top of that thread. Pull it through gently till it makes an L shape, and then hold it down again. And that is blanket stitch. So you don't want to come out too far. I don't want my needle to come out all the way out here, because I can pull that fabric in almost like a fold. We don't want to do that. I just want it to be to the edge of my applique, and it goes over the top of these threads. I'm using 2 threads, so I need to make sure they sit nice and neat together. Every now and then untwist your threads so that they stay flat. All the way through and out at the side, over the top of the threads, and pull through. This is not something you can sit and, well, you will get faster with practice, but don't rush it, because you don't want to pull your threads too tight. That ruins the effect. So you can vary your stitches by how wide they are. By wide, I mean the distance here, this distance here. You can also vary them by how deep they are, and that I mean this distance here. So, and you can alternate so that this one could be quite long, this one could be short, and then long again, and short again. So you can vary it and create texture with your embroidery that way. But for the basic stitch, we're going in at the top of the applique, out at the edge, but over the top of our threads. Push through and pull it firm. Not tight, but firm. So my thread has got to the point where it's no longer long enough to make stitches well, so I'm going to end off. To do this, I'm going to hold those threads firmly, and I'm going to take the needle down right beside them all the way to the back. and pull it all the way through. So you'll see that it creates, I've just basically folded it over to maintain that last stitch. At the back, I do knot threads, so I'm going to knot this. Simply passing the needle through, creating basically a half knot. And I use my fingernail to keep it tight against where I want it. Pull it firmly but not too tight, and then I'm going to simply take a little bit out of that fabric under a couple of stitches and pull through. I will trim that off. So I have my new thread knotted and ready to go on the needle. So to start up again with your new thread, you need to bring your needle up inside that stitch. So you can just see my needle here. I've come up inside that stitch and pull it through, and you are ready to keep going, almost like you've never had to finish. So to carry over again, from inside the body of the applique to the edge, but over the top of the threads so that you capture them at that corner. Hold them down with your thumb and pull gently to complete the stitch. Just going to use my forefinger, which I will, no, I've lost my needle. If you use a frame or a handheld hoop, you can hold your fabric a little more taut than I'm able to here. We're almost at the end of this section. So I have my first stitch there. My last stitch is here, so that is actually really good spacing for me to finish. So I've come up just beside where I started, make my final stitch, and then put my needle down. I'm avoiding the initial knot that I started with. Put my needle down through, and I will go back and finish as before with a knot at the back. There you go. That is blanket stitch for going around applique. Have fun.